All right, and it's now
Okay.
live, so you can take over, Mr. Chair.
Right. Okay. So I'll call the meeting to order. And first of all, we have the approval of the agenda with the addendum. So we need someone to make that motion. Councillor Neal, second by Councillor Doherty. All those in favor? Oh, any additions? Wait a minute. Have you got a point, Councillor Stroud, or are you voting? I can't hear.
Go ahead, Councillor. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Stroud.
Yeah, I wanted I was wondering what the committee thought about reversing the order and doing the planning advisory working group first, because there's an applicant, there's at least one applicant that's applied to both. I think it makes more sense in that order, but it's not that important.
I don't know. I'm open to input about that. I'm not sure how it would change things. Was somebody supposed to come into this meeting and speak?
No, okay, and if we don't want to change the order, we will just have to keep in mind that one of the applicants to the Taxi Commission has also applied to the Planning Advisory Working Group as their first choice.
Oh yeah, we'll note that for sure. Yeah, I noticed. I'm sure everyone noticed that, but we can talk to it when we get to the item as well. Okay, you can be clear to us about. Is that okay? To clarify what you're talking about.
Need to change the order as long as we don't lose sight of that one important fact.
Right. Okay. So we'll make sure we don't. Okay.
Yeah.
So any other comments on the approval of the agenda with addendum? Seeing none, all those in favor? Right. Okay. Confirmation of the minutes of Thursday, March 5th, 2020 minutes. Any corrections, additions? Seeing none. Oh, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Neal, Councillor Stroud. Okay, all those in favor, please vote. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. I don't think there are none. Delegations, none. Briefings, none. Business. This is the first item, 7A. Applications for the first item is the Taxi Commission. And so we have in front of us this is 1 second here, the applicant list. Councillor Stroud wanted us to note that someone has applied for both. Well, actually, so I think that's Mr. Duncan, is it, Peter, I believe?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, okay. So usually the way we run this is the chair asks for comments, and does someone want to suggest someone or speak about pros and cons? Councillor Doherty. Go ahead.
Thanks, Councillor Atchison. So the list did not include the addendum. So there is another person that
Sure.
applied on time, and the clerk did email us about that. And that is Rod Moffat. And we don't really know why he wasn't on that original list, because his application was in on time. So, but it should be on the same list. And so I would like to speak to Rod. He has been on the committee, on the Taxi Commission, 2017, 2018, 2019. This is an easier application process because we're actually just looking for one person. And I think Rod it's just a natural fit. One is he has experience, he has knowledge. He clearly explains his style of working with others. And you mentioned respectful a couple of times. He's a good listener. And he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to the Uber file that is still going on with the commission. So I highly suggest, I definitely will support and vote for Rod. Moffett, the
Thank you.
addendum.
Everybody got that? They know of that, correct?
Mr. Chair, sorry, I just want
Stroud?
to let you know that the call-in number that's appearing is Councillor Chappelle. So we can basically, he's in on the phone, so we'll just have to check with him if he wants to speak after others have spoken, since we can't see him.
Councillor Stroud has his hand up.
All right, there you go.
To Bridget's, to the Councillor Doherty's point, so you have to go into the extra addendum that Derek sent to get the attachment that has Mr. Moffat's application. I just want to make sure I just want to make sure before we go any further that everybody's actually seen that piece of information in the addendum. So I've seen it. Has everybody else seen it? Okay.
Did you want to speak?
Because there's three on the initial package, and then the fourth one on the addendum. So that's
Exactly.
what I just spoke to. So you have to go to a different spot to see his application.
That's right.
Right.
I'm in agreement with Bridget that his experience on the Taxi Commission makes him a very suitable candidate, and I see no reason not to consider him. But I'm willing to listen to arguments for others as well.
Fair enough. Thank you. Councillor Neal.
Yes, I'll defer to Bridget. It's Taxi Commission isn't the easiest board to work on, and as somebody with experience and an ability to work collaboratively with others is really critical with that committee. So I would defer to the junior senator from Portsmouth. Thank you.
Does anyone else on the committee have anything to say on behalf of any particular applicant? Councillor Kiley. Councillor Kiley?
There you go. Thank you. Sorry, just a problem unmuting. I just thought I wanted to say that David Albert was intriguing because he had been a taxi driver, only for a short time, admittedly, based on his application. But that was of note to myself, so I'm just mentioning that.
Right. Excuse me. I'll get back to you in a minute, Councillor Doherty. I just want to ask Councillor Chappelle if he has anything he wishes to say.
Yes, Simon here. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate. I got anyway, long story. You know what? The same mistakes that we've made in the past is appointing people over and over again. And I'm more inclined to appoint someone new. And I'm in agreement with the candidate that Robert has recommended, more so than someone who's been there before, because the problems we have today are the problems we had before. And I think maybe it's time to get some fresh perspective on things.
Okay. Anything else there?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Doherty, you had something to say. So I'm coming back to you.
Well, I was just going to say, I did make a note of the fact that David Albert was a taxi driver in the past too. And I just noted, for me, it was just a note to say that if we ever look for somebody else, and if there's another round coming up, you don't know if somebody else resigns, that I would be looking for him.
Okay. Anyone else with any comments? I've just got, Councillor Stroud. And then Councillor Kiley. Okay, Councillor Stroud first.
Yeah, so Councillor Chappelle brings up a valid point about when there's been problems on a board, and in that case, new blood is a good idea. In this case, we did not appoint Mr. Moffat at the previous nominations meeting for, I guess that would have been for this current year. But he's applying to come back, even though he was not appointed that one time. He didn't give up. I would like to know if we have any information about Mr. Moffat being linked to any of the board's problems in the past before going further on that line of thinking. Does anyone have any of that information?
Councillor Doherty would have. She's the representative for council.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Doherty.
Yeah, that'd be great. So question to Councillor Doherty then.
Okay, that's a good question. No, not really. That last time when we went through this nomination process, we were actually looking for 3 people, and we had some very strong candidates also applying. And the submission from Mr. Moffat was very limited because there was also, I think the message was, or the understanding was that if somebody was already on the commission, that they would automatically be reselected, and that there's no need to write information on an application, where others had offered their resumes and had strong, business backgrounds and certainly background that we were seeking in the commission. So it had a lot to do with that.
Okay. Councillor Kyle.
And to answer,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Bridget.
and so, no, he wasn't part of the POMS.
Councillor Kylie, I saw your hand sort of flash. You maybe thought we were about
Sorry,
to.
itch my face.
Okay. Yeah, right. Occupational hazard these days. Don't get COVID. Okay. The only comment I have on this is that the former chair of the Taxi Commission also spoke positively of Mr. Moffat. Maybe even some issues there, but he was diligent and hardworking. That was the impression I got. The other thing is that David Albert, according to my notes, he really doesn't tell you a lot about himself. He says professional business, but I would like to know what. He mentioned he was a taxi driver briefly, and that is accurate and that is a good thing. But overall, I know considerably less about him than I do any of the other applicants. So that didn't count so much with me. So now what we do here is, I believe we're ready for this, is we vote, and if we get and then we eliminate, right? So we have, I knew I should have copied this off. It's hard to be on 2 screens at once. So we have the first person is Mr. Albert. All those, okay, the person on the addendum, Mr. Moffat, will be the 4th, okay? I better make that clear now, okay? So those, we're voting for one appointment. So, and I cannot see Councillor Chappelle, so I guess you'll have to stop.
What we'll do is, Mr. Chair, is I'll unmute Councillor Chappelle, or he's unmuted now, and he can speak up when he wishes to make his vote.
That's good. Okay. So all those in favor of Mr. Albert? 1.
Hold on. Is that the fellow that has was driving taxi?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got my vote.
Okay, so 2. All right. Just a second while I minimize so I can see what I'm doing. No one mentioned Mr. Duncan or Mr. Seward, but then I'll just ask. All those in favor of Mr. Duncan? Seeing none. All those in favor of Mr. Seward? Seeing none. So so the 4th entry, Mr. Moffat, all those in favor of Mr. Moffat. And that is 4. So I think that's clear, Mr. Clerk.
Yep, by the conventions.
It's a
of the
majority
committee.
of committee, so.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so that's good. Thank you very much. And so the second item of business is the Planning Advisory Work Group. And we've got, hang on while I catch up here, just a second. Page 12. Sorry about this.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, I have the three names up here if you'd like me to read them off for you.
No, I've got them.
Okay, perfect.
I just wondered if the committee wanted to discuss the, to any extent, the description of what the advisory working group is supposed to do. We were previously talking about that, and it is a bit confusing. It does seem to say it can report to planning, but as Councillor Neal said, presumably only through staff. Anyway, being that as it may, does anyone wish to speak on behalf of any of the three applicants? Andrew Duncan, Christopher Horsey, I believe. Somebody can correct me there. Melissa Shoemaker. Councillor Kiley. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, I liked the second person that you mentioned. I forget his number, Mr. Horsey, because of his experience doing planning like things in the military, especially around buildings and all the negotiations that come with that. He also noted very explicitly, which I thought was wise of him and shows his kind of keen insight to the issues, that oftentimes there would be division even within his ranks, and trying to mediate solutions to that. So if we could find someone like that who could bring constructive ways forward from a citizen's perspective to planning committee, I think that'd be super helpful. So he definitely has my vote.
Okay. Councillor Neal.
Yes,
And then Councillor Doherty.
myself 30, 40 years ago would cringe at this, but the gentleman that Rob just talked about was my first choice as well. We don't get a lot of military or recent military applying for committees of council, and he's from, I believe is he Gore Road? I believe so.
Yeah.
And so having somebody from the east side and somebody that's got lots of planning background from his military experience, and I think it's a positive thing if we were to nominate him. So.
Councillor Doherty. Go ahead, Bridget.
He was my first choice too, for all the reasons mentioned. He had an impressive resume. Also, he picked the Planning Advisory Committee as his number 1, 2, and 3 choice, and also wrote down that he can work with the divergent perspectives, and he's very collaborative, and yeah, I also thought that would be a great thing to bring to around the table.
Good. Anybody else? Councillor Stroud, Councillor Chappelle? Councillor Chappelle, go ahead.
Councillor Chappelle, pardon me, I think you just need to click to accept you're on mute. There you go.
Sorry. Thank you, through your chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and appreciate the switching from teleconference to video conference. It's good to see all of you. My candidate of choice is the one that has just been mentioned by Bridget as well, Councillor Doherty and Councillor Kiley as well. I think there's a good mix there. Also, I note that he has a master's in public administration. So that would be a blend itself to productive discourse with regards to policy matters and understanding how to read our council material. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stroud, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that Mr. Duncan is also has military background. In fact, he's an acting lieutenant colonel right now. And not that that's relevant for planning issues, but I wonder whether these two applicants have any contact now that they're in direct competition for this spot shouldn't affect the decision. I'm happy to go with the second applicant as for the reasons stated. I do think it's a good idea to have someone who lives on the east side who actually knows what, you know, who isn't a complete newcomer to the planning world, because that is the fastest growing section of the city, and a lot of little decisions, little aspects of the planning process would be well informed with someone with that from that neighborhood. So I think. Oh, and by the way, he's not the Gore Road one, Councillor Neal. That's what made me mention Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan lives on Gore Road. Mr. Horsey lives on Biscayne, but they're both in Kingston East. Anyway, I'm happy to support the second candidate.
Okay, very good. I would just add that I thought Mr. Duncan had a good application, strong application, but I thought Mr. I'm going to call him Horsey had a stronger one. And I really noted that he had a broad range of experience, especially around issues we deal with like gender balance and Indigenous capability, right? So he had a number of, in conflict management, they both had that. So I think, by the sounds of things, we're fairly unanimous here. We can do it by vote, or we can do it by motion. So I suggest we just vote, and then it'll be completely clear and simple. Is that okay with the committee? So the first candidate is Andrew Duncan. All those in favor? Oh, okay, two. Okay, Councillor Stroud and Councillor Chappelle. Okay. And the second is Christopher Parenzi. All those in favor of that? That's four. And then the final applicant is Ms. Shoemaker. Is there anyone? I don't think anyone's got a vote left, so, but seeing none. Okay, so that is clear as well, because that's a majority of the committee has voted for Mr. Horsey. And so that is the result. Now I'm going to pass on to the next item. Is that okay with the clerk?
Mr. Chair, it would be helpful if we could just get a official motion
Yes.
with the mover and seconder for appointing the two appointees.
Okay, good. Councillor Neal, another councillor we need. Councillor Chappelle. Okay, all those in favor confirming the votes taken. Okay, please, thank you. All right, so moving on, we have motions, item 8, none. Notices of motion, none. 10, other business, none. Correspondence, none. Date and time of the next meeting, I guess that's at the call of the chair. And 13, adjournment. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Chappelle, Councillor Stroud, all those in favor? That was all very civilized people. Thank you so much. And now the clerk will take us out. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Right, bye-bye.